The signal in the snow. The night was cold and silent. Snow was falling gently, covering everything in white. The wind whispered through the trees like a quiet ghost. Far away from any city, in a small wooden cabin, an old man sat alone. His name was John Miller. He was a retired space engineer. Many years ago, he worked for big space programs. But now he lived alone in the snowy mountains, away from noise and people. His only friends were the stars above and the books on his shelf. John was sitting near his fireplace, reading an old science book. The fire crackled softly. Suddenly, his old radio machine started to beep. It was a strange sound, high-pitched, repeating like a code. He frowned and turned to the radio. This signal. It's not normal, he whispered. John had built the radio years ago to listen to deep space signals. It never picked up anything strange before. But tonight, it was different. The sound was not human. He checked the frequency. It wasn't from Earth. The signal was weak but clear. He picked up his coat, flashlight, and snow boots. I need to see where it's coming from, he said to himself. The signal led him north, deeper into the snowy hills. The sky above was full of stars. The snow crunched under his boots as he walked through the forest. After 30 minutes, he saw something, a soft blue glow behind the trees. John moved closer, carefully. He stopped behind a big rock and peeked out. There it was, a small crashed pod, half covered in snow. It was shaped like an egg, and blue light was shining from its cracks. Steam was rising from its surface. The crash looked recent, maybe just an hour ago. John stepped closer. The pod was making soft beeping sounds. He touched it. It was still warm. He saw strange symbols on its side, nothing like any Earth language. He leaned in to listen. Then he heard it, crying, faint, weak, but clear too. Little voices crying from inside the pod. His heart started to race. Is someone in there? He searched for a way to open the pod. He found a small panel and pressed it. The pod hissed and slowly opened with a soft sound. Cold mist came out. Inside were two small babies. John gasped. They were not human. Their skin was smooth and light blue. Their eyes were large and glowing softly. Their heads were a bit bigger than normal babies. But they were crying like human infants, scared, cold, and alone. John didn't know what to do. For a moment, he just stared. Are you aliens? He whispered. One of them looked at him with big, glowing eyes. Then it reached out a tiny hand and touched John's glove. John felt something in his heart. They were just children. They were not dangerous. They were lost. And they needed help. He took off his coat and gently wrapped both babies inside. They were shivering badly. He held them close to his chest, trying to give warmth. I can't leave you here, he said softly. Don't worry. I'll take you home. He looked around. No one was there. The stars above were the only witnesses. He started walking back to his cabin, holding the alien babies tight in his arms. The snow was falling faster now, like the sky was trying to hide what had happened. Back at his cabin, John placed the babies near the fireplace. He gave them warm milk from a bottle. At first, they were unsure, but slowly they drank it. One of them smiled. The other one giggled softly. John sat down, staring at them. What am I going to do with you? He asked. They couldn't answer, of course. But their eyes were full of trust. He decided to name them Zara and Zeno. He wrapped them in blankets and watched them fall asleep beside the fire. The radio was still beeping softly, like it was warning him. Far in the sky, a satellite blinked red. Someone, or something, might be looking for the twins, but for now, in a quiet cabin in the snowy mountains, they were safe. John looked at the stars through his window. Maybe, he said to himself, I didn't retire from space after all. And outside, the snow kept falling. A secret in the basement. The cabin was silent. But something had changed. Not long ago, it was just a quiet home for an old man. Now it held a secret one that could change everything. John Miller stood in his kitchen, making warm milk. His hands shook a little, not because of the cold, but because of what was sleeping in the next room. 2 alien babies. He had found them inside a crashed pod in the snow-blue skin. Glowing eyes, soft voices. He named them Zara and Zeno. They were sleeping peacefully now, wrapped in warm blankets near the fireplace. But John couldn't rest. He kept hearing one thought in his mind. If someone finds them, what will they do? The world wasn't ready for this. Governments would take them. Scientists would lock them away. He had seen it happen before: secret programs, hidden labs. And these two, they were just children. John had to protect them. He walked to the back of the cabin, opened a small wooden door, and carefully went down a narrow staircase. It was his basement workshop. Old machines, tools, wires, and dusty inventions filled the room. He hadn't used it in years. But now, it would become something else. Their home. He cleaned the space, built a small bed out of soft cushions, and connected an old heater. He brought in warm lights. He even painted stars on the walls. It wasn't much, but it was safe, quiet, and hidden. He moved Zara and Zeno into the basement that night. They looked around with wide eyes, curious but calm. John smiled at them. "This is your room now," he said gently. "No one will find you here." Days passed. The twins were different, but they were also normal. They cried when hungry. They laughed at funny sounds. They tried to speak. Their voices were soft, musical. John noticed something strange. They were growing fast. After just a few weeks, they looked like toddlers. They began walking, playing, and saying small words. "Guanpa," Zeno would say, reaching for John's hand. "Zara ... Hug," the girl whispered, wrapping her tiny arms around him. John's heart melted every time. He had lost his own family years ago, but now he was not alone. These strange little beings had become his world, but something else was happening. 2 small things, odd things. Lights flickered when Zeno cried. The radio beeped when Zara sneezed. One night, the heater shut down, and the room suddenly warmed itself without power. John didn't understand it at first. Then one evening, he walked into the basement and froze. Zeno was floating, just a few inches off the ground. His eyes were closed. His body glowed softly. John didn't make a sound. He watched in awe. Zeno slowly floated back down, opened his eyes, and smiled. "Fly, Guanpa," he said. John sat down, shocked but calm. He didn't feel afraid. They're not just from another planet, he thought. There's something more. Later that night, while Zara slept, John opened the alien pod again. It had been sitting in the barn, hidden under a tarp. He found a small crystal-like object inside. It pulsed with dim light. When he touched it, he saw a flash of vision. He saw a dying planet, fires in the sky, ships flying away, 2 small babies in silver suits being placed inside a pod, then darkness. John pulled back, breathing fast. "You're home." "It's gone," he whispered. "You're the only ones left." The next morning, he looked at the children playing with wooden blocks, laughing, happy. John made a quiet promise. "No one will hurt you, not while I'm alive." But far above Earth, in deep space, something was listening. A black satellite turned slowly. Its red light blinked once, twice, then stopped. They are not safe anymore at exactly 3:17 a.m. The stars blinked. Not the normal kind of blinking. This was different. Somewhere far above Earth, a black object moved across the night sky. It looked like a satellite, but it wasn't from Earth. And deep inside the cabin in the mountains, Zara suddenly sat up in her bed, her glowing eyes opened wide. Her little hand clutched the blanket tightly. She had felt something. Something cold. Something watching. John didn't know anything was wrong. It was just another quiet morning. He was making breakfast, pancakes like always. Zeno was drawing on the floor with chalk. Zara was quiet, staring out the window. "You okay, kiddo?" John asked, placing a plate on the table. Zara didn't answer. Her eyes stayed locked on the sky. "I saw something," she whispered. John sat down beside her. "What did you see?" Her voice was small. "A dark ship. It was calling our names." John looked up. Just clouds and snow outside. But he had learned one thing. When Zara spoke like this, he listened. Later that day, strange things began happening. First, the power went out for 10 seconds. Not a big deal, but John's backup batteries also died at the same moment. That had never happened. Then the radio crackled again. Not a normal signal this time. It was full of sharp buzzing, like someone or something was trying to connect. John quickly turned it off. But that night, while putting Zara and Zeno to bed, John noticed something outside, a black dot in the sky. No sound, no flashing lights. Just floating, watching. He grabbed his binoculars. It wasn't a bird. It wasn't a plane. It was a drone. And it wasn't from Earth's military. His heart dropped. Someone or something was tracking the twins. John didn't sleep that night. He stayed up, packing bags, checking maps. He had one plan: disappear. He had an old van in the garage. It hadn't been used in years. He spent all morning fixing it up while the twins played in the basement. But while John worked, Zeno started drawing again. He drew a picture of their cabin with smoke in the sky, and under it, 2 small figures running. That evening, John opened the hidden door in the floor and led the twins out. "We're going on a trip," he said with a soft smile. Zeno clapped. "Adventure." John tried to smile too, but his eyes were worried. They drove through the night, far away from the mountains, through empty roads, forests, and small towns. John avoided cameras, big highways, and gas stations with lights. Zara kept looking behind. "They are close," she said. "Can you feel them?" John asked. She nodded. "Like shadows in my head." After 2 days, they reached an old cabin near the edge of a quiet forest. John's friend had owned it once. Now it was empty. The perfect hideout for now. The kids played with pine cones outside. John set up cameras and blocked signals with foil and wires. He was an engineer once. After all that, everything felt safe again, until that night. At 2:39 a.m., the radio turned on by itself. A sharp, digital voice spoke just 2 words: "Zara, Zeno." The voice was metallic, cold, not human. John ripped the cable out, but the voice continued: "Return, or be taken." Then silence. The next morning, John checked the cameras. On one of the screens, he saw a dark shape moving between trees. Not walking, not flying. Gliding. It was tall, thin, metallic. It vanished in the next frame. He didn't tell the twins, but they already knew. That evening, Zara said something strange. "If they come, I will stop them." John looked at her. "How?" Zara looked down at her hands. "They taught us before the pod how to hide, how to protect, but we forgot." Zeno added, "But we're remembering now." That night, John wrote a letter. "If I don't make it, someone must know the truth. They're not monsters, they're not invaders, they're children. And they're ours now." The truth about their past. The storm had passed, but something still felt heavy in the air. John stood outside the small cabin, staring at the trees. Everything was quiet, but it didn't feel peaceful. The silence felt like a warning, like the world was holding its breath. Inside, Zara was sitting on the floor. Her eyes were closed, her hands resting on her knees. She was breathing slowly, as if trying to listen to something far, far away. Beside her, Zeno held a strange object in his lap. It was the crystal disc John had found inside the alien pod, shimmering, smooth and cold. But now something had changed. The disc was glowing again. "Zeno," John said carefully, stepping inside. "What are you two doing?" Zeno looked up. "It's waking up, Grandpa." John raised an eyebrow. What is? Zara opened her eyes. They were brighter than ever before. Our memories. Later that night, the three sat together in the basement. The crystal disc was floating slightly above the table, spinning slowly. Zara reached out her hand, and it stopped spinning. The lights dimmed. The room became quiet, and then the air began to hum. Suddenly, the walls around them melted into light. They were no longer in the cabin. They were inside a memory. A large alien city filled the space around them. Silver towers reached high into a purple sky. Strange birds flew between buildings. Alien families walked in peace. Zeno pointed. That's our home. In the center of the city stood a tall, glowing tower. At the top, two symbols shone like stars. One was the same symbol John had seen on the pod. Zara walked closer to the memory. Her face was still, serious. Then the sky darkened. Black ships appeared above the city. Thousands. They came like a shadow, swallowing the sun. Screams echoed. Explosions. Panic. Robotic machines landed and began capturing people. Tall, metallic, with glowing red eyes. The Meccan, Zara whispered. They came to take everything. The vision changed again. A room. Two alien adults, blue-skinned like Zara and Zeno, rushed to put the babies into a pod. Our parents, Zeno said. Softly. The mother pressed a hand to the glass of the pod. She was crying. The father placed the crystal disc inside. The walls shook. Soldiers shouted. The door broke open. Just before the enemy stormed in. The pod launched into space. Darkness. The memory ended. The room faded back to normal. John wiped a tear from his eye. So your world. It's gone, he said quietly. Zara nodded. We were the last. John sat down slowly, taking in the truth. They wanted to erase your kind, he said. Zeno looked at him. They failed, Zara added, because we're still alive. That night, John walked alone into the woods. He had to think. They weren't just alien children. They were survivors of a genocide. The last of a powerful race. But more than that. They were his family now. Back at the cabin, Zeno was drawing again. This time, he drew the tower from the vision, and at the top, two small figures holding hands. Zara watched him and said, We were not just saved. We were sent. What do you mean? Zeno asked. She pointed at the crystal. It didn't just hold memories. It carried something else. John returned an hour later and found them both asleep. The disc resting quietly on the table. He sat beside them, placed a hand on both their heads, and whispered, You're not alone anymore. But while they slept, far above Earth, a ship stirred in silence. On its black metal surface, the same symbol from the alien city flickered, but twisted, corrupted. A red eye blinked open. Inside, cold voices whispered. The royal line still. Lives, prepare to retrieve the twins. The chase begins before the birds sang, before the sun rose. The machines came. They made no sound. They moved like shadows through the forest, tall, black, and inhuman. Their red eyes cut through the darkness like fire. At exactly 4:03 a.m., the first Meccan scout stepped onto Earth's soil, and it smelled the twins. Inside the small forest cabin. John was already awake. He didn't know why, but his heart was racing. He had that same feeling soldiers get just before a battle. The feeling that something is about to go very, very wrong. He quietly walked down to the basement. The twins were asleep, curled under warm blankets. Zeno mumbled in his sleep, Run, run. John froze. He whispered, What did you say, kiddo? Zeno opened his eyes wide with fear. They're here. 10 minutes later, John had packed a bag, loaded the van, and strapped Zeno and Zara into the back seat. We're going now, he said. Zara asked softly. To where? Anywhere but here. He didn't need a plan. He just needed time. They drove fast down back roads. The sun was rising behind the trees. casting gold light over the snow. But the van wasn't alone. A small black drone followed them high above. Silent and nearly invisible, Zano looked out the window. One is watching us. John checked the rear view mirror. Can you stop it? Zeno closed his eyes. He reached out a hand toward the sky. For a moment, the drone shook and fell, crashing into the forest. Zeno smiled a little. That's new. 2 hours later, they stopped at a quiet diner off a lonely road. John needed fuel, food, and information. Inside, a teenage girl was working behind the counter. She wore headphones, typing something fast on her laptop. Zara whispered, "She's smart. Not normal smart, code smart." John raised an eyebrow. "You can feel that?" "She can help." The girl's name was Kira. She noticed John's dusty van, the kids with strange eyes, and the way they looked around like they were always ready to run. "Trouble finds you, doesn't it?" She asked John quietly. John didn't answer. Kira slid her laptop around. "I can help you vanish for a while, or at least confuse anything hunting you." John finally said, "We'd be thankful." Kira grinned. "Good, because your van's being tracked by a signal I've never seen before." Minutes later, just as they were about to leave, a black car pulled into the parking lot. Not police. Not military. Too clean. Too quiet. Inside were 2 Meccan scouts in disguise. Their red eyes flickered under fake skin. Zeno and Zara froze. "They're here." John grabbed the keys. "Time to go." But Kira blocked the door. "Wait, come with me." She led them through the back, into a narrow alley, then into a dark garage filled with wires, antennas, and a homemade signal jammer. "They can't track you here," she said. "Not for a little while." Suddenly, loud thumps echoed from outside. The Meccan had found them. Zara whispered, "We can't keep running." John turned. "What are you saying?" Zara stepped forward, her eyes glowing softly. "We need to fight back." Inside the garage, Kira connected the crystal disc to her laptop. The screen flickered. Alien code appeared. Kira stared in awe. "This isn't just tech. This is alive." Zeno touched the disc. A map appeared, a star map, filled with strange planets and blinking lights. One light blinked red. Kira pointed. "That's where the signal is coming from." Zara whispered. "That's where they are." "The Meccan?" John asked. Zeno nodded. "The big ship, the one that ends things." Outside, the sound of metal footsteps came closer. Kira handed John a strange-looking key. "It'll scramble anything for 60 seconds. Use it well." They escaped through the back forest trail as the garage exploded behind them. Zeno looked back. "Did she make it?" John kept driving. "She gave us a chance. We don't waste it." That night, they stopped at a cave high in the mountains. The cold wind howled outside. But inside, John built a fire. Zara sat near the flame. "We can't keep running forever." "No," John said. "Now we prepare." He looked up at the stars. "They want war. Let's give them a surprise instead." Rise of the twin snow fell like ash from the sky. The cave was silent, cold, and dark except for a small fire glowing in the center. Around it sat the last survivors of a forgotten world, a human man, and 2 alien children who were no longer just children. Zano stood outside in the snow, barefoot. His skin glowed softly in the moonlight. He wasn't shivering. Zara sat cross-legged by the fire, her eyes closed. Sparks danced around her hands, not from the flame, but from energy she was pulling from the air. They were changing, and they weren't afraid anymore. John watched quietly. He had spent his life building machines, solving problems, fixing broken things. But now he wasn't the teacher. He was just the witness to something bigger than anything he had ever known. "They're becoming something," he whispered to himself. Or maybe they always were. Zeno came back inside, calm and focused. "I can hear their code now," he said. "The Meccan. The machines." John leaned forward. You understand them? Not with words, Zeno said. With feeling, purpose. Zara opened her eyes. They think we belong to them. But they don't understand. What don't they understand? John asked. Zara looked at him. That we have a choice. Later. That night, the crystal disk lit up again, but this time it wasn't showing memories. It was showing plans. A city, not alien. Human. It was Earth's capital. And above it, a giant shadow. The Meccan mothership was coming. In 72 hours. We have to warn someone, John said, already grabbing his gear. Who? Zara asked. The people who would put us in cages? Zeno touched the disk. We don't warn. We stop. John looked at him. You're just kids. No, Zara said softly. We're the end of one world. And maybe the beginning of another. The next morning, they found an old satellite dish on a snowy hill. John repaired it with help from Kira's code, which she had uploaded to a flash drive before they left her garage. Zeno connected the crystal to the satellite. A bright signal shot into the sky. Not a warning, not a message. A command. Far above Earth. The Meccan fleet received it. And paused. Inside the mothership. Cold machines processed the signal. The twins had touched their network and left something behind, something impossible, a new language. A virus of choice. The twins had infected the code. Back on Earth, strange things began to happen. Some Meccan scouts stopped moving. Others turned and walked away from their targets. Two machines found the cave and then dropped to their knees in front of Zara. They are listening, Zeno said. That night, lightning flashed across the sky with no storm. Zara stood on the edge of the cliff outside the cave. Arms open to the sky. The wind twisted around her like a dance. Inside, Zeno was building something. Fast, focused, quiet. John looked at him. What is it? A translator for the world. So they can understand who we are. And what are you? John asked. Zeno didn't look up. Hope. By dawn, the machines had changed. Not all of them. Some resisted. Some followed old orders. But many were now protectors. Silent, metallic guardians. Zara could speak to them now. Not with words, but with energy, emotion, memory. The power they were born with had returned. Not for war, but for balance. Meanwhile, in space, the Meccan High Command argued. Destroy the twins. They are infected. They are becoming leaders. But by the time they voted, it was too late. The twins had already sent a signal to all Meccan units across the galaxy. A choice. Follow us. Or fall. And most followed. Not because of fear, but because of something new. Faith. Back on Earth. John sat beside the fire as the twins slept. He looked at the stars, his eyes tired but full of wonder. He had saved them from the snow, but now they were saving the world. He smiled softly. They're not weapons, he whispered. They're not aliens. They're my kids. A new family, a new world. Before sunrise, the world held its breath. Across every continent, birds stopped singing. Radios went silent. Screens froze mid-broadcast. Above the clouds, something massive had arrived. The Meccan mothership. It floated like a mountain in the sky, its surface blacker than night, its shadow stretching miles. The people of Earth looked up in fear. Governments panicked. Fighters launched. Sirens screamed, but no weapons were fired. The ship didn't attack. It waited. Because it was not here to destroy. It was here to listen. Far below, in a forest clearing, Zeno stood barefoot in the grass, eyes glowing like twin suns. His hands were open to the sky. Around him, Meccan scouts, hundreds of them, stood in silence. Not enemies, not invaders. Followers. Beside him, Zara sat cross-legged, her fingers touching the earth. Flowers were blooming around her feet. Even in cold soil. Energy moved through her like wind. John watched from a hill above. His breath caught in his throat. They weren't children anymore. They were something new. News cameras were rolling now. From helicopters, rooftops, phones. All eyes were watching the twins. The question whispered across the planet, who are they? In a nearby control room under a military base, world leaders argued. Should we stop them? Can we? Are they a threat or salvation? Then Zara spoke, not through a mic, not through a phone, but into the minds of every human alive. Her voice was soft, but clear. We are not gods. We are not monsters. We are survivors. And we bring peace, if you allow it. The world fell silent, even. The birds began to sing again. Back at the hill, John stepped forward. You're not leaving. Are you? He asked. Zeno looked up at him, smiling softly. Not without saying goodbye. Zara stood beside him. We can't stay. Not forever, but we won't forget. John held their hands. You don't have to forget, he said. You'll always have a home here, with me. Zeno leaned in, hugging him. Thank you for finding us. John blinked fast, holding back tears. No, he said. Thank you for letting me be your family. The sky began to shift. A new ship descended, not dark and cold, but silver, soft, and glowing. It wasn't Me-chan. It was something older. Zara looked at it and whispered, the ones who hid us. They've come back. The ship opened like a flower. From it stepped others like them. Blue-skinned, glowing-eyed, survivors from across the stars. Refugees, leaders, children. Zeno turned to John. We'll help rebuild. Not just our world, all worlds. The twins walked toward the ship, but before entering, they stopped. Zara raised her hand, and from the ground, small machines rose. Like seeds of metal. They scattered into the air, spreading across Earth. They will watch, she said. And protect, Zeno added, and learn. John stood alone now, watching the ship rise. His heart was full, not of fear, but of something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. High above Earth. The Mikan mothership turned away. It followed the twins' command. No more war. No more silence. It would now protect what it once tried to erase. Weeks later, the world had changed. Governments no longer hid secrets because the sky had spoken. Cities adapted. New energy arrived. Clean technology bloomed. And somewhere, in a quiet mountain town, an old man still lived in a wooden cabin. Every night, he looked at the stars and smiled. On one special night, his radio buzzed once again. A soft voice came through. Good night, Grandpa. He wiped his eyes. Good night, my stars.